In 1939, America built a 34-ton monster. It was a multi-million-dollar rolling fortress, packed with cutting-edge technology, designed to completely dominate the most hostile environment on Earth. The plan was absolute. This machine would cross Antarctica for an entire year, without support, without stopping. It reached the ice, and it barely survived its first few minutes. How? How could the absolute peak of human engineering optimism fail so instantly and so quietly? To understand this disaster, you have to look at the sheer absurdity of what America actually created. This wasn't just a vehicle. It looked less like a research craft and more like something designed to colonize another planet. It was a towering 60-foot-long diesel-punk Leviathan, covered in bright red steel, rolling on 4 giant wheels that stood twice as tall as a grown man. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And it was a floating monument to human arrogance. Antarctica. Even today, it feels like another world. A continent-sized desert of ice. Temperatures drop below -80 degrees. Winds can freeze human flesh in seconds. For centuries, it was just a blank space on the map, a white void that swallowed explorers whole. But the late 1930s was an era of unchecked human confidence. This was the golden age of American industrial might. We had tamed rivers with massive dams. We had pierced the clouds with steel skyscrapers. To the minds of this era, nature was no longer an adversary to fear. It was simply a problem waiting for an engineering solution. So, when the United States government decided to permanently claim the frozen South, they didn't just send men with sled dogs. They built a machine to make the wilderness completely irrelevant. The Antarctic Snow Cruiser was designed to be a self-contained mobile civilization. A crew of 5 could live inside for months, crossing the frozen unknown without ever stepping outside into the deadly cold. Inside this rolling behemoth sat a state-of-the-art scientific laboratory, a darkroom, comfortable sleeping quarters, a fully equipped kitchen, and a massive workshop. On paper, it was perfect. It carried enough fuel to travel 5,000 miles. But the designers didn't stop there. Strapped securely to the roof was a complete custom-built airplane, ready to launch from the vehicle's back to scout the treacherous terrain ahead. And then there were the wheels. 4 giant custom-molded rubber tires, each nearly 10 feet in diameter, towering, imposing, and completely, perfectly smooth. When the snow cruiser was completed, it had to be driven from the factory in Chicago to the port in Boston. It was an absolute media sensation. It blocked interstate highways. It choked city streets. Millions lined the roads just to catch a glimpse of the future. The message was loud and clear. American genius had built an unstoppable beast. Humanity was about to conquer the final frontier on Earth. But this assumption would completely break in Antarctica. January 1940. The heavy exploration ship North Star arrives at the edge of the world. It anchors at the Bay of Whales. The excitement is electric. To get the monster off the ship, workers construct a massive, towering wooden ramp down to the pristine, untouched ice shelf. This is the moment, the culmination of years of secret designs, thousands of hours of intense labor, a fortune in government funding. The snow cruiser's hybrid diesel-electric engines roar to life, a heavy, rhythmic pulse. The 34-ton monster slowly creeps forward. It tilts downward onto the wooden ramp. Suddenly, a loud crack. The massive timbers groan. They snap and splinter under the unimaginable weight. The crowd gasps. The driver hits the throttle, rushing the vehicle forward to escape a catastrophic plunge into the freezing ocean. The monster clears the ramp. Its massive wheels crash down, safely landing on the Antarctic snow. The crew cheers. The machine has arrived. The driver shifts into forward gear. He applies the throttle. The engines rev higher and higher. screaming against the silent landscape. The giant 10-foot-tall wheels begin to spin furiously. And then, nothing. Not even an inch. It didn't move. The ultimate machine, designed to cross thousands of miles of the harshest terrain on the planet, moves forward exactly 3 feet and stops. The wheels spin wildly, kicking up fine white powder. But the 34-ton conqueror of continents refuses to budge. Advanced engineering had created a 34-ton sled with wheels. How could this happen? How could America's brightest engineering minds make a mistake this basic? The terrifying truth is, it wasn't a mechanical failure. The engines worked perfectly. The steel frame didn't break. And this is where the entire design begins to fail. The machine had been tested, the calculations were correct, the engineers were experienced. But there was one thing nobody truly tested: Antarctica itself. In reality, Antarctica doesn't care about paper. The engineers had specifically designed the Snow Cruiser with completely smooth, treadless tires. Their theory was brilliant on paper. They reasoned that large, smooth tires would act like massive balloons. By spreading the vehicle's immense weight over a giant surface area, the tires would glide over the snow rather than digging into it. They had tested this exact concept in mud and swamps back in America. It worked flawlessly. But Antarctic snow is not regular snow. It is a brutal desert of fine, dry ice crystals. It behaves more like hard, frictionless glass beads than wet mud. When the smooth, treadless rubber hit this specific surface, there was absolutely zero traction. None. The very feature designed to save the vehicle from sinking became the exact reason it could never move. The crew tried everything. They strapped the heavy spare tires to the front wheels. They wrapped massive steel chains around the smooth rubber. Nothing worked. In a bitter, mocking twist of irony, they discovered a flaw within the flaw. The machine could only gain a tiny bit of traction if they drove it entirely in reverse. But traveling across an entire continent backward at 2 miles per hour, it was a physical impossibility. The grand dream was dead. The Snow Cruiser spent the rest of its short life serving as nothing more than a stationary, heavily insulated wooden cabin. It never conquered the continent. It just sat there, humming quietly in the blank wilderness. A heated box, while the blizzards slowly buried it from view. This is not just a story about a bad tire design. This is a story about a psychological blind spot that still haunts modern civilization. Technological overconfidence. We believe that if our calculations are complex enough and our machines are grand enough, reality will naturally bend to our will. We see it today. Over-engineered software systems that collapse under real-world use. Massive infrastructure projects built on assumptions we fail to question. We mistake our mathematical models of the world for the world itself. But nature does not care about our blueprints. Following the outbreak of World War II, the funding was permanently cut. The crew walked away. They left the multi-million-dollar monster behind. Over the decades, it was spotted only a handful of times, buried deeper and deeper under layers of compressed ice. Today, its exact location is a complete mystery. Somewhere beneath Antarctica, the machine may still exist. Frozen in total darkness, buried under decades of heavy ice, like a lonely monument to a moment when humanity believed engineering alone could conquer nature. The Snow Cruiser was not destroyed by an explosion. It was not defeated by a rival nation. It was simply rejected by the very environment it was built to dominate. And sometimes, that is exactly how reality reminds humanity of its limits.